So first question from a science standpoint and from a NASA standpoint, why was yesterday's eclipse so important?
It provides a unique opportunity from science-wise to study the sun. The sun is so bright when you're in space or when you're on the ground. There's no easy way to study its corona, its atmosphere, and understand the solar activity which takes place on the surface of the sun. Because the sun is just so bright that you can't get a good look at it. So there's methods you can use, like a coronagraph, which actually blocks out, and they use it for stars as well, kind of blocks out the brightness, so you can look at the atmosphere, and that works fairly well. But nothing's like the actual eclipse, believe it or not, the natural occurrence of an eclipse, where the moon perfectly blots out the sun, and you can see the activity around the outer edge there around the moon, and that is a rare opportunity when that happens, particularly when it comes over a place where people are able to study it. In most of these eclipses, they occur about every 18 months, total solar eclipse, and most of them, because our planet is mostly water, occurs over the ocean. We don't get to see them.
Yeah.
And we only live on about 10% of the land, so it's not always a place that's conveniently visited that you can see these eclipses in the sky. So this one came right across the U.S., which was good because we could see it. And the other thing is, now we have the technology to study it more than we had the last time that happened about 100 years ago. So it was a nice opportunity to use aircraft and high air balloons and telescopes to get some good data and information on the sun, what we call solar weather. So that was good. And also it was just a really cool sort of happening event for anyone who was able to participate, not even just along the path of totality, but all around the country. You got to see something pretty cool if you were able to look up at the sun safely and see it. So it was a good day. I think a lot of people enjoyed it.
You are one of the very few individuals who've ever been able to look down on Earth from outer space. And yet, even for you, watching the total eclipse yesterday, was it awe-inspiring? What kind of feelings did you have?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I was in Charleston along the path just before the eclipse exited the country and went out over the ocean. And it was really cool. A lot of people were excited. It got really dark. The unfortunate thing is that we had cloud coverage where we were. So once it went to totality, we really didn't see that much. It sort of, dark. It was like a cloudy, dark sky. So I was like, well, and it didn't get as dark as I thought it would, because I think there's so many lingering clouds that still lit up on the edges that it projected down on us. So I didn't get to see that that fiery ball of corona in the sky. So I was a little disappointed about that, but it was still very cool to be there amongst a lot of people who were interested to see the eclipse almost to totality, and see that the moon cover of the sun was pretty cool.
Do you ever get to experience anything similar to that while you're in space? I know eclipses are rather rare even up there, but do you see anything that's out of the ordinary when you're up in space?
Yeah, if you're lucky enough to be up there when an eclipse occurs, certainly you'll see that, depending on where your position is relative to it. Some of my friends who have been in their orbital path has kind of come right near it. They'll see a big black spot on the ground, and the closer you are to that, of course, the better view you have of that spot. But even when they're far away, like yesterday, the space station wasn't awfully close to it, but they could see the darkness projected down on the Earth, and they described it as being very impressive. I've never gotten a chance to do that when I was in space. There was no eclipse going on. But you get to see other things. You get to see thunderstorms from high above. The communication pattern of the lightning strikes happening below you is kind of cool. It's because you're coming over, especially at night, you're coming over a dark sky and a dark planet, because there's cloud coverage. You don't see city lights below you. It's just kind of in reverse of what we see when we look at clouds at night. You don't really see very much. But when you look down, same thing. You don't see city lights, but the lightning will light up the clouds. You can see all the little features and veins of the clouds as they get lit up. They're very bright flash of lightning, and there's usually a bunch of them that happen at the same, they kind of happen in cycles, and then they'll stop and then they'll start up again. It's pretty cool. There's several flashes at a time. So that's pretty cool. Seeing shooting stars, sometimes you've seen them at night above. In space, you see them come into the planet below. That's pretty cool, too, seeing a streak come in below you. And the moon is really interesting to look at in space because you're above the atmosphere. To me, the moon, when viewing it from Earth, is somewhat of a two-dimensional disk. And when you're in space, it has this three-dimensional look to it. You can see the craters very clearly. And the stars are perfect points of light. The stars in space, they don't shimmer because that's what you see. The twinkle of the stars is the light coming through the atmosphere and being distorted. You see that when you're above the atmosphere. You see these perfect points of light. So I think that these are interesting things. And you can look back at the planet and remember that you're a reminder of the fact that you're living on a planet when you're up there. You look back at it. But I think yesterday was also a reminder that we are orbiting the sun, and it's a pretty amazing event. It's a reminder that we are part of the solar system. Our home Earth is one of the planets in the solar system, and our sun is just one of the stars in our galaxy, and our galaxy is just one of millions of them out there in the universe. So it's kind of a reminder of all that clockwork that's taking place. So there's motion that it can be timed so precisely. It's pretty amazing.
I would imagine the entire time you're up there, there's a certain adrenaline rush that you experience, and then that's probably ramped up when you actually step outside the space station and take a spacewalk. Can you describe the feeling that you get as you're stepping outside and doing a spacewalk? You're out there to do work, but what's that like for you when you go outside?
It's a much different experience than being inside the spacecraft. Launching into space is impressive, of course, but think of it as if you're in your room you're in right now and you blast it off into space. Now you're in space, but you're still inside that room and you float around, can look out the window and so on. But you're still inside, and when you open the hatch, put on the spacesuit, you open the hatch and go out, you really feel like you're going outside now. I really feel like I was in space in a different way when I was spacewalking. And the sun is extremely bright. There was a lot of warnings, of course, not to look at the sun yesterday, and it's really bright in space, brighter than it is on Earth. It's like a pure white light, extremely bright. But you notice that, and you notice also the darkness when you're over the dark part of the Earth. As you're orbiting around the planet, it's dark, and night go through that cycle. And night is extremely dark. But it's not only getting out there, it's a great opportunity to view our Earth. You're not looking through a window like you are in the spacecraft. Now you can look anywhere you want through the visor of your helmet. So it's a much different experience than being inside.
September is National Preparedness Month, and we're getting ready to host a preparedness event here in California. Can you talk about being prepared for the unexpected? Every time you took a spacewalk, it didn't probably go perfectly planned and everything according to what you were scheduled. So how important was that for you?
Yeah, nothing goes according to the plan, and sometimes it's something little, and sometimes it's bigger things, but always something happens that you didn't expect. And every time you think you've seen everything, well, you really haven't. And the way I looked at it is you try to be prepared. There are certain things that can happen because they've already happened. And when we trained for space flights, we knew about things that happened in other space flights. We also knew about things that happened to us during our training. You make these mistakes, and you kind of know about those. But there are things that can happen to you. But there are a lot of other things that can happen to you that you don't know about. And you try to think about those. What else could happen? What do we got to be careful about? And, you try to prepare for each and every one of those. And still, there'll be something that happens that you're not expecting. But I think the way I looked at it was that as long as we did whatever we could to prepare ourselves to be ready and to have whatever we needed to be ready for whatever emergency or every predicament we could be in, that was the best we could do. And by doing that, having that sort of mindset, that thinking about it that way, of being able to react to problems or things you didn't expect. If you're ready for something else and if you're ready for something and something else happens, that doesn't mean that you prepared for the wrong thing. You can only prepare for what you know about. And
right.
when that other thing happens, I think because you're ready for these other, you can apply what you know about the stuff you were ready for, and be able to meet that difficulty that you might be encountering.
I want to touch on, I'm a Big Bang Theory fan, and my favorite episode with you on is when you're in the Soyuz missile and you're about to shoot up, and you and the Russian cosmonaut are, this is my favorite part, and the Howard Wolowitz character not so much. Can you, in a layman's terms, describe what that feels like when the engines fire up and you shoot up from ground?
You're waiting for a while for the launch to take place. You're kind of sitting there nervously trying to keep yourself occupied. There are some things you have to do, but a lot of it is kind of just filled with nothing except to sit there. Once the countdown starts at about a few hours, and once it gets down to a couple minutes, you're thinking, well, okay, things are going well. We might actually launch today, because you never really know it to the last second. If they see something they don't like, the ground control team, the launch team doesn't see what they like, they won't launch you. So you're kind of hoping that you're going to get there that day, and then you get down to a few minutes, and then just a few seconds, and it's 6 seconds. In the shuttle, you had liquid engines, liquid rockets, and liquid propelled rockets, and you also had solid propelled rockets, which are like big sticks of dynamite, the solid rockets on the side of the shuttle. So at 6 seconds, and the countdown left, the main engines, which were liquid propelled, would light. You wouldn't go anywhere, but they would run for 6 seconds, make sure they were running well. And then at 0, the solids would light, and you start moving right away. So it's not like, I wonder if we're going anywhere. You're moving really quickly. Before you get to the top of the tower, you're going 100 miles an hour, and you accelerate from 0 to 17,500 miles an hour in just 8.5 minutes. So it's a lot of power and speed, a lot of acceleration, and it's quite a ride.
NASA calls today and says, Mike, we want to send you back up. You say what?
I would say you're kidding, right? No, I would say yes. No, there's no doubt in my mind I would want to go again. I miss it, but I'm doing other things. I don't know if I would be so quick to say yes. I guess it would have to depend on what they wanted me to do. I'm very glad I had a chance to go a couple times. I'm happy with what I'm doing now. And they got a lot of good people there now. They don't necessarily need me anymore. So I don't think that's a decision I have to make. That call comes at, I don't know what that would be about, but they've got plenty of good people there working and doing well. So I don't think they're going to come calling anytime soon.
I know you have your memoirs out. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's called Spaceman. Yeah, my book came out. It's coming out in paperback September the 12th. So pretty soon, a few weeks, it'll be out.
Talk about what's in the book.
The book is my journey to becoming an astronaut and some of my experiences as an astronaut. But really, what it is, it's what it turned out to be as I was writing it, and I had a co-author help me write it, and we worked together for a long time, performing it and writing it, and with the editor and so on. And it became into what the book was becoming. Really, what it was is, really, I think is more of a story of how important it is not to give up and how important it is to follow a dream and not give up. And I was rejected by NASA 3 times. I was picked on my 4th try. And on the way there, once I had decided I wanted to try to become an astronaut and try to pursue that, and it was a little kid dream, and then I thought it would be impossible, so I didn't think about it much until after I got out of college. But there was about 11 years between the time I said I really would like to do this, and then the time I got the phone call that I was selected. And in between that time, I went to grad school at MIT, and I had failed my qualifying exam at MIT and had to retake it, and luckily passed the 2nd time. And I had other obstacles thrown in front of me, and including when I was rejected from NASA. The 3rd time I was rejected, I had gotten an interview and was rejected on a medical issue, and it was a problem with my eyesight, and I was able to figure out a way to improve my eyesight, which, at the time, was looking back, I'm like, how the heck did I do that? There's certain things you can, if you fail a test, you maybe can retake it, but once you're told even when you said, you're medically unfit, how do you try to reverse something like that? But I think it showed that, where there's, the idea that giving up is not an option, and that things could be hard or difficult, but they're not impossible as long as you try. And the only way something becomes impossible, the probability goes to zero, is if you don't try. If you don't try, you're never going to get there. But as long as you're trying, there's always a chance. And that's really what the message in the book is. And I try to describe how cool it is to look at the planet and teamwork and the friendships I had and the experiences I had. But I think really the comments I get from people every day from email or Twitter or whatever it might be about it is that it's been inspirational, and I'm glad it's coming out in paperback, because that means more people can afford to buy it and get a chance to read it, and the schools can look at it as a possibility if they think it's worthwhile for the kids to read, which we're excited about. So coming out in paperback, I think it's a good thing. It can reach more people. So we'll see what happens, but I'm excited about that. It's done well as a New York Times bestseller, so that's good. In hardcover, we'll see what happens with the paperback now coming out.
My final question for you, there will be others that will go into space, but forever you will be known as the first man to tweet from space. Is that correct?
Yeah, take that, Neil Armstrong.
Was that something that was planned ahead of time? How did that come about?
Well, I flew that launched. My second flight was in May of 2009, and Twitter started becoming popular, or I started hearing about it in 2008. Remember when President Obama was elected in 2008, he was using Twitter during the inauguration, early 2009, and social media started to pick up. It was picking up some more steam then, and so I was approached by our NASA public affairs people. They were looking at when can we have a person send the first tweet from space, have an astronaut get on Twitter. And I hadn't done it. I wasn't on Twitter. I had no intention of doing anything. And they approached me and said, hey, this new thing is Twitter. And I go, yeah. And they said, we'd like to do someone to tweet, be the first person to tweet from space. Your flight aligns perfectly in the timing of this, because we were in May of 2009, just when their plan, when they started to look at this. And out of my crew, I was the guinea pig that they wanted. So my commander said it was okay, because you got to get permission to do everything, and that's how it started. So they set me up with a Twitter account, and they got me going on it, and it was great. It was a great way to share the experience. Even in my training, I got on only about a month before I flew. It was in April. I think it's like beginning of April. We flew beginning of May. So I only had about a month on the ground, but I was able to tweet my training experiences and up to the launch, and then sent that first one from space. So I just dumb luck. I tripped over that one.
That's some serious roaming charges, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. But it was all through the computer. We weren't using our phones for Twitter back then. So in space anyway.
Can you recall what the first tweet was you sent?
Yeah, it was. I think I put it was launch was awesome. I'm feeling great, enjoying the spectacular views. The adventure of a lifetime has begun. Something like that. They made fun of me on Saturday Night Live and saying that they said launch was awesome, and that was good because my kids, who were both teenagers, went to school. They made fun of me on Saturday Night Live, and they came into school on Monday, and all the kids were excited that I said something stupid on Twitter. And the other day, so I said, what they said on Saturday Night Live was that I said launch was awesome, and they left it at that. And they said, from 40 years, in 40 years we went from one small step for man, one giant leap to mankind. The launch was awesome. If we ever find life in the universe, we'll hear about it from this guy like this, and it'll be like, geez, dudes, look, aliens. And so that's the way they're saying that with me, with my great Twitter skills, that's how we would find out about life on other planets. And so it was funny, and I didn't even know about that because I was in space on that Saturday. But my kids said it was great. They went into school, the kids were excited, and I should keep doing stupid stuff because people thought it was funny. So that's the advice I got from my kids.
Mike, thank you very much for taking some time and sharing your stories with us today.
Pleasure.
I appreciate it.
Pleasure. And hello to everyone in California. Be safe out there.